guys, it's Tan, and in this first series I want to talk a little bit about the misunderstood zodiac signs. The reason why I'm making this series is because I feel like there's a lot of people who go and try to find information about their sun signs and they read up information that is actually telling them about the archetype of their sun sign, not the sun in that particular sign, and then they get a little confused. And then they feel that astrology doesn't actually work. But the reason why that's happening is because they are, or if you're one of those people, you might be thinking that, for example, if you're an Aquarius, you might think that the archetype of Aquarius is equal to the sun in Aquarius, which is not true. They are not equal. So just to kind of explain this in a very simple and easy to understand way, when they talk about Aquarius as a sign, it's almost like you're saying that this person has their sun in Aquarius, moon in Aquarius, Venus, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, and all their planets in Aquarius in the 11th house. All right? And the truth of the matter is that nobody in the entire world, I don't think there's anybody in the entire world who could possibly have such a combination. You could be an Aquarius sun, you could have your moon in, let's say, Aries, and then you could have your Venus in Pisces, maybe you have your Mercury in Aquarius, and maybe you have your Jupiter in Gemini. So we are all actually a mixture of all of these signs, and they're all within us. They just play out in different aspects of our lives. So that's why I called this series the Misunderstood Signs series. The sun itself is telling of the person's identity. So, and when the sun is in a particular sign, it's about the style of their identity. It's the style of how they go about in the world, trying to identify themselves as being in the world. If that makes any sense. Knowing someone's sun sign does not tell you about how they are in love relationships. It does not tell you about their career choices. It doesn't tell you about their hobbies, how they think, how they communicate, their life mission, or any of those things. It is just their identity and the style of being in the world. So I think there's a bit of a caution that goes in when you are trying to learn more about just your sun sign, and there's not a lot of information out there about talking purely of your sun sign. So I hope that this series is going to help you with that. And also I kind of just wanted to defy stereotypes because that's what I like to do. Okay, I think that it's time to start. So I'm going to quickly apparate and then we're gonna get started. The misunderstood sun in Taurus. I have my sun in Taurus, so I feel like I can talk about this pretty well. So some of the characteristics of the archetype of Taurus that is misunderstood, if you have a sun in Taurus, you would feel misunderstood by, is Taurus are materialistic, stable and inflexible, hates change, and is loyal. I do have to say that the Lord Buddha is actually a Taurus. Growing up in a Buddhist family and having learned a lot of Buddhist traditions, I know that the Lord Buddha was actually a prince, and he grew up in a very wealthy castle. He had all the luxuries of life that he could ever ask for, but then one day he saw this old man, and that kind of made him curious about life outside of his castle. So he dropped everything that he ever had, set out on his own, went out into the forest, lived with absolutely no attachments to anything that he ever had before, and now he's known as one of the most influential spiritual leaders of all time in the world. And Taurus hating change, I can say this for myself because I'm a Taurus and I love change. Over the past, I guess, how many years? 6 years, I've basically changed my living situation. So basically my apartment about 7 times. So I've basically moved every year. And it's something that I choose to do, because when I feel like something is no longer serving me, then it's time to change. Yeah, so with that being said, Taurus is right in the middle between Gemini, Aries, Pisces, and Cancer. So most likely if you have a sun in Taurus, you could possibly have your other personal planets like Venus, Mercury, maybe Mars, in Gemini or Aries, Pisces, Cancer, and Mars could even go way further than that. So that's why you might not be identifying with the Taurus archetype. Now let's go on to the actual sun in Taurus. So with the sun being in Taurus, the identity is not so well defined, because identities are not so well defined in an earth sign. They work better in fire signs. So this does mean that if you are a Taurus sun, there's a tendency for you to link your identity to other things. This works for other signs as well that don't have a really well defined sun, that the sun is not in a sign that has a very well defined identity. So for Taurus, you could possibly link your identity to money, I have to say, your finances. This means that when you were maybe younger, you probably found it very easy to make money, and you probably have it in your head about how you can go about making money, because you feel that when you have money, you're able to do other things in life. You'd feel more secure. You would meet the responsibilities and the expectations of your family, for example. Until one day, okay, because we all know that, you know, money does not really bring happiness. It can get you to do things that you want to do, but it doesn't define who you are. Money can never define who you are. And I think that's all Sun and Taurus people discover later on in their lives, that what the hell have they been doing? The thing is that they think that their identity is tied to money, but in reality, their identity is actually tied to success. They thought that the money would bring them success, but then as they grow about in their lives, they discover that there are so many definitions of success, and they explore this concept. So the Sun in Taurus could, apart from identifying themselves to money, feel that they identify with nature or with beautiful things, so they can go about being in the world in a way that they want to be seen as being successful, and having that sense of beauty, and also being successful maybe with things in nature, and they kind of just want to combine all of that. But I think the key here is that a mature Sun in Taurus eventually finds the balance between material things and just understanding that they are just who they are, and their spirit is what makes them them. You know, their identity is inside of them already, and they don't need to search, they don't need to use money as a way of going about the world in order to do things to find who they are, because the Sun is all about just being. It is not about doing something so that you could find out who you are. It's about you just being who you are, if that makes any sense. So the tarot card that I've picked for the Sun in Taurus, this is just my own definition of what it means to have your identity in the sign of Taurus. This has no textbook reference, no theories associated, just my own personal, feeling. This card that I picked is... Okay, so this is Temperance. Take a look at the image real carefully. It's an angel standing in front of a mountain. She's got her feet dipped into a pool of water, and she's actually doing alchemy. So she's pouring water from 2 of the cups in order to create something new. So this is actually card number, and this is important in my interpretation. So this card is actually number 14, which means that it is actually between card number 15, which is the devil. Okay, and it's also between card number 13, which is death. So I really see like the Taurus Sun kind of being in between these two because of, you know, trying to find that peace, but getting, so the devil is all about kind of being chained to material things and not being able to kind of pull yourselves away from distractions, not being able to pull yourselves away from the material side of life, you know, things that seduce you basically. So I find that the Taurus might kind of be like this until they discover that it's time for a change, because none of this material stuff is bringing any peace. Death is all about transformation and change, and I feel that once the Taurus finds the in-between, finds the peace within themselves, that's temperance right there. The temperance, as I mentioned before, is mixing two things together. So they're mixing the materials with the non-materials, with the attachment of the materials, making that change, mixing them together, okay, until they finally get peace within yourselves, finding the inner peace. So my Taurus experience. I don't actually know that many Tauruses. The Tauruses that I do know are women, mostly colleagues and friends, and my grandmother is a Taurus. What they seem to all kind of have in common is that they're very, Taurus Sun's people are very appreciative of others. Like if somebody is doing something very well, they will not hesitate to be like, oh my god, that's amazing, like you did such a great job, I love what you're doing, and it's like just that kind of giving that kind of appreciation. They also appreciate, besides from people, just kind of, you know, things like food or anything that is of not fake, you know, something that is of authentic quality. So like a food that is healthy, or a food that's homemade, or clothing that's handmade, you know, something like that. They tend to have this kind of like professional aura about them. Like if you approach other sun signs, they might be very like slack offs, like, hey, yo, what's up? But like if you like approach a Taurus, they just be kind of like, oh, hello, yes, and how are you doing? You know, they kind of have that kind of like professional identity. I think it's because that they want to be seen as successful and kind of yeah. So also love to eat. I don't think I've known a Taurus Sun that doesn't like to eat. Yeah, I think that's all that I have for today for the Taurus Sun. That's my take for having a Sun in Taurus. I hope you no longer feel misunderstood, my fellow Taurus Suns out there. We're also not materialistic, and not all Tauruses are, and they're not always gonna hate change, especially if they have a lot of Gemini planets. So I hope that was helpful for you, and if you like this kind of content and you haven't subscribed to my channel, then please feel free to subscribe and turn on your notifications. Leave a comment below if you are a Taurus, or if you have a lot of Tauruses in your life, you know, share your experiences. I would love to read about them, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!